I'm Catherine Flashner, and this is The Truth Is, a podcast about discovering what it means to live your truth. Even when it's messy, when it unravels the plans you thought you had, and invites you to step into the unknown. Each week, we explore practices, stories, and conversations that illuminate the ways we find and follow our own path. This is a space to slow down, ask questions, and uncover what's been quietly waiting inside of you. If it resonates, subscribing, following, and engaging with the show really supports me in bringing more people into the conversation. Thank you for being here. Welcome to The Truth Is. Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Truth Is. I'm Catherine, and I'm really excited to be back with you today, bringing you a new conversation. It was about a year ago when I was at a real point of burnout, and I was about to step away from 10 years in the corporate world and was quite a bundle of stress and anxiety and avoidance about not knowing what was going to come next. And I saw a training being offered at my yoga studio over the course of a weekend centered on an ancient practice called Yoga Nidra. Now, I'd experienced it a few times, but didn't know much more about it other than it was like a deep form of meditative rest. And I was like, I need that. And so I signed up, and that's where I met my guest for today, Sam Bianchini. Over that weekend, Sam led a group of us through a beautiful education on what this ancient yogic practice is, the philosophy around it, the tradition of it, and how it can open our eyes to a broader and deeper understanding of what rest is. You know, I knew that I needed to sleep every night, but I didn't have much of an understanding of rest beyond that. And that weekend brought me the uncomfortable truth that I didn't know how to rest. Now, what Sam introduced me to that weekend was not resting for the sake of being more productive, but rest is a return to ourselves, a return to our worthiness, a return to our truth. Sam Bianchini is an international yoga teacher. She's a psychedelic therapist and an artist who spent the better part of the last 15 years studying and teaching yoga all over the world, most notably in these rest and restorative practices and traditions around Yoga Nidra, yin yoga, restorative yoga, sound healing. And alongside her yoga training, she has spent many years learning in relationship with teachers and ceremonial practices that treat rest as this form of remembering. Now, you don't have to have a yoga practice or language around ritual and ceremony to meet us in this conversation. One belief runs through everything Sam shares about her journey and about her work that she offers her students today. It's that we are already whole, that we don't have to earn our gifts or prove our worthiness, but that is inherently something to remember. That rest isn't about fixing ourselves, but how we return to ourselves. So this episode is an invitation to experience rest, is a return to your truth, is a return to your own inherent clarity, a return to what you have to offer the world uniquely, and to trust what becomes available when you move forward from that place. Here is my conversation with Sam Bianchini. Sam Bianchini, welcome to The Truth Is.
Yay!
So it's Italian, Bianchini.
It's super Italian, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And my husband is Picanato, so we're just like...
So he's Italian.
He's my little Italian.
Oh, learn something new. Bianchini.
Yeah, but just, I mean, I never say that, but
now
if you think about it, now you're going to think about it all the time.
Sam Bianchini.
Yeah, totally.
It's so lovely to sit down with you.
I know. It's really I'm really looking forward to this.
As soon as I told you this, as soon as I was kind of going through the season of transition last year, you miraculously entered my life, and we'll talk a lot about that experience. But when I came to the podcast and I was making my table of dream guests, it was you were right at the top. And so when I feel like it's so the right moment starting this new year to have this conversation. And we're going to talk a lot about rest and what you taught me about rest. And I thought it would be a fun place to start because the top of the year can bring so much, I don't know, like expectation of showing up newly.
Totally.
But I wanted to ask, like, what today rest looks like in your life.
What it looks like in my life. That is such a great question.
Yeah.
You know, I came to these practices of rest because I needed them and because I still need them. Mm-hmm. So I always say I teach what I need, never what I've mastered. I just teach what I need. And so for me, it's a continuous, ongoing love practice to myself of learning and relearning and understanding and being in relationship with letting myself take a moment to be held, to lie down onto the earth, to soften and to tune in and listen. And that is something that is not scheduled in my time as much as maybe like it could be, or I don't believe in shoulds, but like should be. But it is something that I find again and again and again, and I fall in love with and go, oh yes, this again and again and again. So yeah, I think for me, it shows up. It just shows up more spontaneously, and it shows up more. It's like I don't schedule it, which is so funny because again, this scheduled. I don't know. It's like rest to me is just this love practice that I have for myself.
It sounds like, and it makes perfect sense to me actually, is integrated in like your ongoing relationship with yourself.
Yeah. I was actually just about to say that. I was like, I think that question's hard for me in different reasons, in different ways, because it's more just like, it's not a lifestyle or a thing I do anymore. It's a philosophy and a way of living more. And that is not to say that I'm not impervious. I am deeply pervious. Is that a word? But like to, the hustle and I got to get this done and all of that.
Yeah.
But what I can come back and land in always is this deep purveying sense of actually, no, my worth isn't based in my productivity. My worth isn't based in what I'm getting done and how much I'm achieving. And my worth is inherent because I'm alive. So I think it's more a philosophy in that way, which actually makes me think about, I thought about this before our conversation today, like what is inherent to the idea of allowing ourselves to rest. And when I speak about rest, I think that can just conjure up images in people's heads of like us just like laying on a couch and or whatever that is. But rest to me, and I'm formulating this in this moment, is the ability to allow ourselves to pause, whether it is a moment of play or a moment of doing nothing or a moment of laying on the couch and closing our eyes, without the sense that we're doing something wrong. And I think oftentimes for me, what is inherent in why we've lost the ability to do this is something deeper underneath, which is that our whole world, all of the systems that we're inside of and have been inside of for so many hundreds, if not thousands of years, have taught us that your worth is based on what you get done, your success, how much you do. And I think for me, if we're going to look at rest, not just as a practice, but as an embodied way of being, it has to start with eradicating that lie. At least for me, it's a lie. And coming back to what is truth for me is that we are inherently worthy and holy and enough because we're born, because we're alive, because we exist. And that's something that I've been lucky enough to to learn from my teachers and in my lineages, from the practice of Tantra yoga and also indigenous lineages that essentially teach like that, as a human being, like indigenous culture, at least like indigenous cosmology would not say like, all right, you got to come into the world and learn some lessons and work really hard and then maybe you'll be worthy. Like indigenous cosmology is like, hey, look, like you are alive for a blip of time and it is your greatest gift back to this great mystery to go, wow, look at all that is here, like this beauty, this sunset, this, these animals, this like wealth of abundance that we have in front of our eyes. That is the greatest gift I can give back. And that doesn't come with like, well, the only way you get to do that is first.
Yeah. I'll never forget it. It frames this, I think, as well. Dr. Gabor Mate. Yeah. Someone asked him what he would tell his younger self. And he would say, he looked at like the decades of working so hard and he said, I would remove the belief or eradicate the belief that I have to validate my existence.
Yes.
And I met up with a former colleague and friend last night and I was kind of telling him, I was like, I'm really watching myself approach work and how I support myself and I'm like watching myself try to approach it differently.
Yeah.
I was so used to the hours and hours being the thing that earned me.
Yes.
Whether it was supporting myself, through like being paid or earning the right to rest. I was like, I was an athlete growing up. So I'm sure there's so many experiences that served me that just taught me like, oh, well, you have to show how much you're staying up late and like making it happen.
Yes.
And so, but I love the simplicity of like, we're worthy without needing to prove it all the time.
Yes.
And validate it.
Right. I look at our culture in general and we think, there has to be all this, it's literally even in our languaging, like grinding, and busyness to prove that it is enough.
Yeah.
And when you look at like nature, I just think about like nature itself. There's this quote by Lao Tzu where he says like, nothing in nature hurries, yet all is accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And we are just so far removed from that as a culture, know?
I kind of intuitively saw your training like a year and some change ago, or about a year ago, actually.
Yeah,
it was a little less than a year ago for Yoga Nidra.
Yeah.
And I'd experienced it as a ritual and as a practice and kind of knew how it was unlike anything I'd like experienced before.
Yeah.
And then I signed up and spent the weekend with you. And I think immediately, and we'll talk about that practice, but you introduced to me like rest in a way I hadn't understood it before as like a way of being versus just how many hours of sleep I'm getting a night. You've introduced to me rest as ritual and rest as something sacred that like culturally we stand space to like reclaim.
Yeah.
But I love that you said I moved into that work or that practice because I needed it.
Yes.
And so I love to ask my guests for early context on them and where they come from. And the thing I admire about you is I see the way you move through the different mediums that you occupy as an actor and a writer and as an artist, as a teacher. But I would love to go back to like, classically trained actor Sam and what that life was as you look back. And then like, what was that inflection point that led you into this type of work?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the threads for all of us go back originally to the time we're born.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an idea in indigenous psychology, essentially. Like this idea shows up in every different tribe if you really look at it. But there's this idea in indigenous psychology called original medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the idea that from the beginning of time till the end of time, this infinity of time that we're in, there's never going to be another Catherine. There's never going to be another Sam, right? There's never going to be another you. And even if we just take a look at that, very practically, like there will never be someone with my exact DNA living in this moment in time. And there's this idea in indigenous psychology that it is medicine for us to live as fully us, like how we came in with our specific sets of gifts and talents and ways we see the world, and that it is medicine for us and medicine for the world to live as fully that. And so I think when I take a look at all of us, we've come in with these tendrils from something and somewhere else. And so I was born with like an inherent sense of just deep connection of everything that was. I was born in a family that didn't have any organized religion, which was so wonderful. And I was just like left being like, doesn't everybody feel the like God underneath, or whatever we want to call it, spirit, energy, this connection between everything and everyone? And I had no idea what to do with that, how to like physicalize it or put it into practice, or ritual. So I spent a long time growing up, like going to different temples and churches.
Really? As a curious kid?
As a really curious kid.
Wow.
I know. By like East Coast academia, like totally atheistic family was like, what is she doing? But they ran with it, I guess. But I really wanted to figure out what to do with everything that I felt inside of me.
Wow.
And that was what was accessible, in suburban America at times, was just like churches and temples for the most part, know.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And then, parallel with that was, of course, my love for theater, which I now understand to be just the love of ritual and ceremony. So I just always was an actor. I was always telling stories. I was always bringing community together, putting on plays when I was 5 at my school and like my kindergarten, being like, you be this character, you be this character. This is what we're going to do with the audience, And so as then I got older and I went to my BFA and then my MFA for acting. I discovered in those programs yoga. And when I was 18, the worst things you could do to sophomore actors in college in Chicago is force them to go to an 8 a.m. yoga class every single day. Like that's your fastest way to make someone hate yoga. So I expected to hate it, and then
were you assigned to go?
Yes, it was part of our curriculum. Yeah.
Interesting.
I know. And so I thought I was going to hate it, especially coming from a background of soccer and rugby and these very competitive sports. And then I fell in love with the philosophy, and something inside of me just was like, follow that strand. And I wasn't really able to follow it much until after I graduated grad school, but I followed that strand. And following that strand of yoga took me to my studies in Tantra, which took me also to my studies, then parallel that with like studies with the indigenous. I just sort of fell into it.
Yeah.
These old indigenous ceremonies from sweat lodging and vision questing. And so weirdly, these 3 tracks of my life, both teaching yoga and then theater and then ceremony and indigenous ways of prayer, for a long time, I didn't really know the thread beneath of them. Yeah. And I would constantly, I felt like get pressure from my peers or just the outside, like, what are you doing? Are you an actor? Are you a director? Are you a teacher? Are you holding healing space? Like, what are you doing? And what I think for me that I've discovered is just the thread beneath of all of them is that they're all deeply ceremonial. That these are all forms of ceremony, of bringing people together for community catharsis and community remembrance together. To bring bodies in a room where we are crying, laughing, emoting, or just breathing with one another is the truly, I think, in our day and age, one of the richest currencies we can have. In our day and age of technology and AI and becoming more and more and more separate from one another, to bring people into a live space whatever that looks like, to place it inside of ritual, to place connection together. I mean, if there's one thing that's going to save us in my heart, that's what that is, you know? So
I love, thank you for sharing all of that, because I love the insight and the thread pulled from like that beautiful idea of you're born with the original medicine.
Yeah.
And like you had that propensity to follow it into these places of worship. I resonate with what you shared about your journey into yoga. I was a serious athlete, and then when that ended, I had like a real identity. I didn't know what to do with my body if it wasn't like serving my team in the sport.
Totally.
And then I was so funny, I was in graduate school for business.
Right.
And I started going to yoga, and I started with a really vigorous vinyasa practice.
Yes.
And there was something to it where I didn't have the language at the time.
Yes.
But I was like, why do I feel more with me after this?
Yeah.
And it's interesting to think that was 15 years, 10, like well over a decade ago. I'm 34 now. I was 22.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting through the chapters of my life. Now being in LA, I spent 6 years in SF teaching. It's amazing how the practice has stayed so consistent. And what I've needed in terms of like the physical asana has changed.
Yeah.
And I think that's why taking that training with you, and I think it's a good segue to talk a little bit about Nidra is a rest practice. Is all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is what I need, and I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah.
And so like what's possible is so expansive.
Yeah.
You're helping me articulate like access to self.
Yes.
And access to who I am through these practices and rituals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. And I think what's cool about all of this is like there's both the mystical sides and the philosophical sides and the anthropological sides. And then there's very real, like somatic science, like your nervous system and your neurology when you come into these more like restful practices of why you're going, oh my God, there's my sense of self. There's actual like grounded science. Like it doesn't just live in the airy-fairy.
Right.
And then similarly, like
I like the airy-fairy.
the airy-fairy, the woo-woo. Like there's science. And I love the places where those things all come together. Like as a child of a father that was, a quantum physicist and doing all these other things.
That's
he's
cool.
just brilliant. Like I love the places where these things meet. And then also I love when these practices that can feel so like, okay, I'm, like even in therapy where it's like, okay, I'm doing this and my nervous system and my brain and psychology, and then it gets real mystical too. And you're like, okay, there's some blend here. And I think these rest practices sort of bring that in. So
and it's like the common thread to me is it's like these places or moments where I like come home to myself again. And that I love that you shared at the beginning is like, yes, we want to schedule it and make space for it, and that's not always accessible in the everyday. And I find that, today it looked like me going to the beach with my dog and like just sitting still.
Yes.
And the culture we live in where it's like, do one more thing and then you'll be well. Rest has kind of, the simplicity of it has been a sigh of relief.
Yes.
And so to talk about rest through the understanding of what you taught me a year ago, will you talk to us a little bit about Nidra and what sets it apart?
Yoga Nidra is like this ancient thing. And it was talked about in the first ever written down text of yoga called the Vedas. And every single text of yoga that talks about Yoga Nidra actually talks about it as like a state of being and a state of consciousness, not as this thing that we do.
Yeah.
And that state of consciousness was said to be like peace beyond words, or this like blissful reunion with the divine. And nowadays we hear it as yoga sleep. Like that's how we hear it translated. You see it in, I would say 95% of the, like if you see a Yoga Nidra on like a yoga studio website or class offering or something, you're going to hear about it as yoga sleep. And to me, I like to offer like the etymology of that word because it's a little bit deeper and richer and cool. And I'm like, wow, what is that? And what did these ancient mystics know? But the word nidra can be broken down into two parts. Ni, which is the void or the cessation, and through, which means to draw forth from. So the word yoga nidra then therefore means to draw forth from the void. And again, always talked about as this state of being and state of consciousness, not as something we do. Now that we have Yoga Nidra and what we do with Yoga Nidra now, and if you take it as studio with me, with anyone else, one, there's vastly different types of, what would now be called like techniques or practices or way to experience it. But the common thread that we see with all of them, at least for me, is this systematic relaxation of one, the body, two, then the breath and our energy, three, the mind, and then four, releasing into our intuition and self. And so those in yoga are called the koshas. And so there's an ancient form of yoga called Laya yoga, which means the yoga of dissolving or the yoga of dissolution, where we literally dissolve each of these koshas or layers of our being and come back into what in yoga they call the Anandamaya kosha. The Anandamaya kosha is it literally means like your bliss body. Ananda means like bliss, happiness. And it's the part of you, it's like the U-shaped hole in the universe. Yeah. It's the part of you that literally was like, the universe being like, I want to experience life as Catherine or as Sam. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to have my unique set of who I am. And that part of you is always deeply connected, like infinite, unchanged, totally perfect and beautiful. And then we get wrapped in these different like other layers of our being. So Yoga Nidra is like the systematic relaxation of all of these layers of our being to touch that, to go back part to that of us, that radiant part of our soul, and then like draw forth from the void a truer picture of who and what we are. If that all just sounded like mumbo jumbo, which it does, right? This is also where I love like where science meets the mystic, right? Like now that we get to study science and Yoga Nidra, we see that 30 minutes of Yoga Nidra can be equivalent to 4 to 8 hours of really deep sleep in the body.
I did it today.
Yeah. Right?
I did it today.
Do you feel amazing?
This is relevant to what we were talking about earlier and before we started recording. It's been such a funny, just like learning to act a scene of theater. Yeah. You do the prep. I'm talking about the metaphor for the interviews. Yes. You do the prep and then let it go and show up. Yeah. I was out this morning and then I came home and I had a few hours and I used to be like, let's prep more. Yeah. And it speaks to like the reverence I have for what you've taught me about rest, because allowing myself to do that practice and just lay and be, it changes the way I get to show up and enjoy this moment. Yes.
One of the reasons I'm so passionate about all of this stuff is because as a person that's sort of like held healing space for upwards, closing up on 15 years now, which is bananas, but I look at the pains of the whole world, and really, if you can get down to it individually, all of us at our base are going, am I enough? Yeah. Am I worthy? Do I belong? Like that's every single one. And then from there, what we do that might harm ourselves or harm others based on that, or you know what I mean? Or from that idea of that deficit, right? That's the biggest pain of all the world. So when I can look at what the missing link is, why do we feel that? Why do we constantly, all of us feel this like non-belonging and, am I worthy? Am I enough? And I think it's because all of our systems, look at capitalism and white supremacy and patriarchy, they're just teaching us like, yeah, you could be enough, but first you got to do this. I mean, look at the wellness culture. Yeah, you could be enough. You got to take this supplement first and meditate 20 million hours.
The other day, as an experiment, I wrote down all the things that like that part of me thinks I should buy or do.
Oh my God, right?
It was like really long and really expensive. And I don't need to mention the specific ones because, everyone.
No, everyone. Right.
Everyone
like you can have your thing. But I was like, okay, there's like 20 appointments I need to schedule and things I need to buy in order to like be enough for the
Yes.
life that I hope to have.
Yes.
Yeah. I think why this like work and this knowledge has been, it certainly met me at the exact right moment.
Yeah.
Because it's against everything I thought I needed to do to like create or like build a business or move forward in my life.
Yeah.
The understanding that like, no, I have to make sure I'm like actually tuned in to myself, because maybe said a different way, so much of our culture, and I'll speak for my like, without even realizing it, I'm like watching other podcasts and I'm like, oh, I should do that. And I like, I think I'm inspired.
Right.
And maybe I am, but then I come back and I'm like, wait, why am I doing this?
Right. Totally.
This doesn't feel like me.
Yeah.
And it's like what I would love for people to hear is like like really slowing down to meet yourself and meet what you know to be true.
Right.
Yeah.
We literally can't hear physically, like neurologically, we can't hear when our brainwaves are going.
Right.
And so, but we can't yell at our mind like, okay, mind, slow down. I want to know what's going on. What do I really believe?
Mm-hmm.
It takes that pause, that space, and then literally coming and relaxing our nervous systems first to start to let the brainwaves slow down, to hear maybe what do I want? What is my inspiration? And that's coming directly. I mean, this weaves us back into like the body. It's coming home to the body. The body, we have just so in our culture and world, we have like, and also these spiritualities and these religions and have like made the body this evil place or this like lesser than place. Like people are always wanting to ascend up and out of the body or to control their body or tame their body or, force their body. When like really the body is the home of so much knowledge, intuition, and knowing.
Yeah.
I mean, even just when you landed in the idea that like we are nature, we are just little mammals.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look in a forest, like animals just have a deep sense of intuition.
Yeah.
Where to go, how to find food, how to connect, right? And we are the most domesticated animals of all time. Like we as human beings are the most
like
domesticated.
Out of the instinct.
Out of our instinct, out of our bodies. And so this space of like pause.
And if we look broadly, it's not serving us so well.
No, it is not, right?
Yeah.
And I talk about this a lot too. Like I used to work at a wolf sanctuary, and we talk about how wolves are so deeply, deeply intuitive.
Yeah.
And they just work off of energy. And they teach us trust and patience and time because you cannot force a relationship with them.
Yeah.
They build it over time and based off of the energy we're emitting. So yeah, that's a very base way to sum it up. But we would talk with people beforehand, before they got to meet the wolves, about who is the how dogs are a domesticated version of that. And they've been like taken off of their instincts.
Yeah.
And then we'd be like, what are other domesticated animals? And it was always humans.
Yeah.
And one of the places that I think may be relevant for anybody in a female body listening that we talk about is how women will literally feel something in their gut. Like, for example, an elevator door might open and there might be someone standing in there. And you get this gut feeling that you're like, ooh, that doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
But because of how we're trained, we go off of our gut instinct to be nice and have these social norms. And we'll walk into an elevator where we feel so absolutely wrong about it and let these huge iron doors close.
Yeah.
And we're doing that in a million micro paper cut ways all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to be nice. I'm feeling this, but no, that's not right. Or I got to go off of it, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, as, still consistently a recovering, people pleaser and a, trying so hard to let the good girl die. Like I'm just wanting to help people. Yes, don't worry. It's my next book. Next to the good girl or the good girl needs to die. We don't know. But it's like coming home to your body has this deep sense of knowing.
Yeah.
It has this deep intuition and wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the rest spaces that we can allow ourselves those are the portals to allow us to relax the nervous system, relax our neurology, shed those layers, come home to the light and the knowing and the intuition of our body, and learn to start to trust it. I think in just understanding our sake of time, there's like one important point that I want to offer on this, which is that, so, I love Nidra for so many reasons, and, but one of the most important things to me right now is not just rest in this idea of like just laying down our bodies or taking a moment to breathe. Those are, yes, tiny acts of resistance every single moment, tiny acts of resistance that say like, I am more worth, like I am not just a tool for production. My life is one that is so worthy and full that I can take this moment and this breath. But I also have this place that I want to say, we were designed to heal in community. We literally have nervous systems that were designed to regulate together. We were born needing to regulate off of our birthing parent, or off of the bodies around us. We're mammals. And one of, a person that I really like, Kimberly Ann Johnson, who is a somatics person, and she speaks to, we're all regulating together, and then we're all just trying to regulate with the master regulator, which is the earth, the planet itself, right? And so I think I bring that up in conversation again around like ritual and ceremony, because one of the places for me, like, yeah, I can rest on my own, but you know what? It means so much more when I can go and someone is holding some space for me where I get to go, oh my God, I'm safe. Oh my God. And then all the other room, or the people in the room, if there are other people in the room, they start to calm their nervous systems, and we're all relaxing our nervous systems together and lowering our heartbeats together and doing what we were designed to actually do together. And so there is something so, I'm so passionate about that right now. Like we're meant to be in these spaces of like community and letting ourselves be held to go, okay.
I feel like coming out of COVID, we forgot that. And then like we replaced it with convenience. And please, I did like 2 years of acting classes on Zoom, which I needed. And then being back in a theater or in a yoga studio. And you know what I love? You see people, and I hope more people rediscover that. Like I love seeing, like, I have a ton of friends in like the book community that are writers. People are getting together to read. And, whatever your thing is, like go do it with other people. Again. So I'm really glad you brought that up. The other thing I wanted to get your thoughts on, and I thought about it, this is a little bit of a metaphor, but I thought about it when I was sitting on the beach with my dog this morning, and it was like a really gray morning, and the ocean was gray and the sky was gray, and you couldn't even see the horizon line clearly, and it made me think of the void that Nidra talks about. And I watched this man walk out to the beach. There wasn't many people out there, and he put on like a snorkel, and their waves were pretty, there was like, they weren't teeny waves, but when you go out into the ocean, you have to like get past the waves. And then you're in this silky stillness. And it made me think of what you taught me through this practice, that there's something like vast down there or beyond for us to connect with. And the thing I want to bring up is, in my experience, whether it's going to like a ritualized experience in a yoga studio, or I went to a writer's retreat and like turned off my phone for 2 days, or even being in my house and like being off of my phone, it can be uncomfortable at first. But I've found that once you get through that, there's something else there.
That's a really great metaphor for it, that it's like those toppy waters, and then you come to that space.
I wonder if that discomfort is part of the like, oh no, but I can't slow down.
I think it is,
because I have to and part of it I think is then we have to feel what we actually feel.
Exactly, because the body is the space of all feelings, all memories, all emotions. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think we've like also made those so bad or scary or they're boogeymens or we don't want to touch them, rather than partnering with emotions as like the deepest power we have.
Yeah.
But I think there's something too, though, it's a little tangential though to what you said, but where you said like putting your phone away or all of that, or or taking 5 minutes on the couch. Like I like to break down the word sacred a lot. And so the word sacred comes from our Latin sacrare, and that literally just means to set apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that so much because it demystifies making something sacred. It doesn't have to be going up onto the mountaintop or doing all these crazy things.
Yeah.
It's literally just setting it apart. You can make washing your dishes a sacred moment. We can make this a sacred moment by literally just setting it apart. So, there can be things that if someone's listening that they're like, I don't know, it feels weird, it feels a lot. How do you set it apart?
Yeah.
What does that mean to set it apart for you, to set this time, this space apart, and to give yourself that worth and gift? So I don't know if you're coming to a space and you're like, it feels weird, but maybe you light one candle, maybe you play some sort of calming music, and like, this is your way to set this time and space apart, right?
You have so much to share to your students, to my listeners, to me. And I love the way this work and your work manifests in your life.
Yeah.
And I know that you're on the brink of a new chapter brewing in your career as an artist.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to ask you, you shared earlier how your training as an actor led you into this work. And I know I've been privileged to watch you perform, that I love how you talk about that they all coexist in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
How has this new chapter that you're approaching bubbled up for you and revealed itself for you?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. Yeah. I look at all my, my work is like strands of a braid. They make each other stronger, like from teaching to the work I do in ceremony to the work I do as an artist. And how it came and bubbled up for me, to be totally, completely honest, is that, right, I teach what I need. I was so absolutely burnt out in 2025. 2025 was one of the hardest years I've ever had. And in a way where I literally heard in a ceremony that was being held for me, like, if I keep going like this, I'm going to die. So I took a month off, and I've never taken a month off. I'm an entrepreneur. It's like hard to take a month off. Like, you have this idea in your head. It was a macro of the micro of what I teach of rest all the time. I'm like, I can't rest. I can't take a month off. And I literally was going to die. So I had to save my life and to save my soul and my physical body. And in that month off, I learned a couple different things. One of them being, even if I'm off alignment in just the tiniest bit, it is not serving me or anybody else around me.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I came to was this idea of, I just don't want to get to the end of my life having lived my life completely for others.
Yeah.
I love my work, and I don't do it just for the soul of others. It is a place that I'm passionate about and something that animates me from the inside out. And because I'm so passionate and love my work and very good at it, it has become kind of all-consuming. My work in psychedelic therapy, my work as a teacher. And so I realized I missed my art. And I missed this thing that is so quintessentially me, this theater piece. And I just thought about, if I died today, it would be the part of me that felt like I was regretting, like that was the one thing I didn't get to live. And so I don't know, I had a friend that was diagnosed with cancer a couple of years ago, and she thankfully is in remission now. But she told me in her time post-cancer, like, her grandmother changed her career every 10 years, changed what she did fully and was great at it and amazing. And this like pioneer woman at every new decade. And I just think, like, it's harder and harder for all of us to change what we do as we get older.
Totally.
And oftentimes change only happens when there's tragedy or sickness or a divorce, whatever it is. And I just, approaching 40, I just was like, I don't want to wait for myself to get diagnosed with cancer to be like, oh yeah, I want to be, in the high up echelons of theater making. I want to be an artistic director working with like some of the most amazing minds in the world. But I think to tie it home and bring it together with all of that, I'm not like, oh, I'm abandoning all of this.
Right.
This work completely informs, makes richer the work I'll make as a theater director. And the work I'll make as a theater director will continuously inform how I am approaching teaching and psychedelic therapy. So it all is just coming home to that. But it really was, Catherine, it was in my own sabbatical, in my own, like, I'm going to die if I don't take this rest and pause, that I was able to find that and listen to that truth and allow myself the bravery and courage to go in that direction.
What a beautiful example of that time with you, whatever it looks like, if it's a month sabbatical or if it's 5 minutes or an hour, like the listening to it and then the courage to move forward with that.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful way to it's a beautiful example of like one of my core beliefs with this thing is like, you have the compass.
Yes.
And how cool to take a chance on that compass.
Yeah.
And I loved what you said. We have these wake up calls that if we're lucky, we will go through love and loss.
Yeah.
And they will change the trajectory of our life. And I think that, yes, those interruptions will come. And the returning to self and stillness, it reminds us of that reality and of that truth.
Yeah.
And we can like commune with that consistently.
Yeah.
That check-in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, partnering with death as our greatest ally.
Ooh, that's
well
said.
Yeah. I mean, literally, death is what allows us to know we are so alive,
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, and also just, I think to tie it totally back because we've winded, but like, that compass, that inner compass, like you're talking about, and here, and like the pause, the break, the rest, the allowance to tune in to what is inherently moving you. That what is inherently moving you is the original medicine. It is you partnering with the void. It is some mystical thing trying to be like, Catherine, I want to go here. And some little urging from the beyond. It is not selfish. It is totally like medicine to the world for us to go fully after that.
Yeah.
So if for anybody's listening that's like, I don't know what that is for me, or they might have that little tendril of like, wouldn't it be cool if, or I've always wanted to, or what? It's like, yes,
it's there.
Go there. That is literally going to be medicine for me. So I want you to go there.
Beautifully said. That is our contribution.
Yeah.
And it's not selfish. Yeah. It's like, that is the thing that is your medicine to others. Yeah. I love that. That's so beautifully said. What's a ritual or practice that keeps you?
Oh man. Honestly, you think I'd say something big, but honestly, hanging out with my dog.
I know. We're gonna cry. We're both gonna cry about our dogs. I see what you share about your dog, and that'll be when I ask you back to talk about our dogs. What would your 8-year-old self say to you today?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
And what would your 80-year-old self say to you?
Oh, she would say, keep going. There is no amount of fuck the nice girl that you can overdo.
Yeah.
Maybe,
she's like, we killed her.
Yeah. Like, keep going. You can even be bigger. Even take up more space.
Yeah.
It's not taking up air from other people, My therapist, if you can see this on camera, for those that can't, used to do this thing of like, oh, you think that taking up space means taking up like room from other people. And she's like, you think about it, you're watching my hands. It's like she makes one hand really small. She's like, so you're trying to make yourself small. And she was like, but I want you to do this. I want you to take up space. And she put a hand growing up tall so that other people can learn to take up their space too. It's like trees taking up space. So I think my 8-year-old self would be like, keep going.
Yeah. Expand.
Yeah.
Expand.
Yeah.
All right, this is Truth is Mad Libs.
Okay.
I used to think blank, and now I know blank.
Oh, I got one.
Yeah.
Not germane to anything we talked about, but to my sweet, amazing husband, I used to think that relationships were compromise and always had a part that had to be bad or had to be work. And now I know that relationships can be better than we ever imagined, and someone can be matched for you beyond your wildest dreams.
That'll be your third episode.
Oh my God.
I have to schedule you. And lastly, what's true about the season of life you're in now?
You know, this is a great place to end this. And what's true for me in 2026, I feel like 2025 was just this moment of all of us really grappling with the pains of the world on a very large macro level.
Yeah.
The pains of our country, the pains of our, communities, what we're really dealing with. And in 2026, that's only escalated. And what is true for me within that is how we can stay wholly within that, but also dance and have a joyous light in spite.
Yeah.
And maybe in a resistance of.
Yeah.
So what's true for me is feet on the ground, fighting, and dancing my butt off as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Catherine. It was so fun to be here.
Yeah, you've taught me a lot about the truth of where I was and how I want to feel moving forward. And I'm really grateful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, and thanks for saying that. And I mean, the truest thing that I can say is truly that I just gave you a space to explore that truth that was already in yourself.
Yeah.
The Ram Dass thing, we're all just walking each other home. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
I hope you leave this episode with something that stays with you, a question worth holding or an insight worth following. If this conversation resonated, subscribing or sharing the episode helps bring more people into the conversation. And connect with The Truth Is at The Truth Is Podcast on Instagram. Special thanks to the people who make this show possible. Editing by Dan Kroll. Video production and editing by Anton LaPlume. Music by Will Savino. Visual identity by Sarah Gaynor and Jonathan Bush. And guidance from my friend and advisor, Natalie Tulloch. I'm Catherine Flashner. Thank you for listening to The Truth Is.